The station was busy, loud, and indifferent. Trains screeched, people rushed, announcements echoed endlessly. But beneath all that movement sat John, a beggar no one seemed to notice. His clothes were worn thin, his hands trembled from more than hunger, and in his bowl lay not just the hope for coins, but for someone, anyone, to look at him and see a human being. Day after day, he waited, quietly, patiently. But most people passed by like he didn't exist. The ache in his body was real, but the ache in his soul was deeper. The ache of being unseen, of feeling like nothing. Then one morning, a man stepped off the train. Mr. Richard. He wore a sharp suit, walked with purpose, and carried an air of quiet authority. John's eyes lit up. He looks rich. Maybe today's my chance. With hope fluttering in his chest, John stretched out his hand. But instead of coins, Mr. Richard gave him something else, something heavier. He looked John straight in the eye and asked calmly, "Do you always just take from others? Have you ever given anything to anyone?" That question hit harder than any rejection. Not cruel, not loud, just painfully honest. John sat there, stunned. For the first time, he didn't feel ignored. He felt exposed. That night, John lay curled on the cold floor of the station, but the chill in his bones was nothing compared to the weight in his chest. Mr. Richard's words echoed louder than the trains. "If you believe you have nothing to give, you have no right to ask." He had heard countless refusals before. Cold looks, harsh words, silence, but never a question like this. It didn't accuse him, yet it unsettled him. And now, in the quiet hours before dawn, it wouldn't let him go. He stared into the darkness, whispering to himself, "Is that really true? Do I have nothing at all?" For the first time in years, he wasn't blaming the world, nor begging for a way out. He was looking inward. A strange restlessness filled him, not from hunger, but from awakening. As morning light slipped through the roof of the station, something shifted within. "Maybe I don't need much," he thought, "but I need to give something. Even the smallest thing. If it's mine, if it's honest." In that quiet moment, a seed was planted, not in his hands, but in his heart. And though he didn't yet know how or when, John had taken the first real step toward becoming someone entirely different. 2 days later, while sitting quietly near the tracks, John noticed a small patch of wildflowers blooming through the cracks. Their colors stood out brightly against the dust, and for the first time in a long while, he smiled. Something stirred in him, a thought. What if I give something, even just a flower, to those who give me something in return? He picked a few, returned to his corner, and waited. When the first coin dropped into his bowl, he reached out and offered a flower with a gentle smile. The person paused, then smiled back. A small moment, but it felt powerful. As the day went on, more people responded warmly. Some gave more. Some thanked him. And slowly, John realized something profound. People don't pay for pity. They respond to connection, to meaning. For the first time, he wasn't just asking, he was giving. And in that act, he found something deeper than survival, a sense of worth. One afternoon, as the station buzzed with noise and motion, John spotted a familiar figure stepping off the train. Mr. Richard. His heart raced. Without hesitation, John hurried toward him, eyes bright, hands holding fresh flowers. "Sir," he said with quiet pride, "today I have something to give. If you give me money, I'll give you flowers in return." Mr. Richard paused, looked at him closely, and smiled with recognition. "You've learned the secret," he said. "You are no longer a beggar. You are a businessman." John felt his throat tighten, eyes misting with emotion. In that moment, he no longer felt small or forgotten. He felt reborn. 6 months later, at the same railway station where everything began, two well-dressed men met and shook hands. One of them, Mr. Richard, paused mid-handshake, studying the other man's face with curiosity. "You look familiar," he said slowly. "Have we met before?" The other man smiled, calm and composed. "Yes," he replied. "I was the beggar you once spoke to." It was John, no longer hidden in rags, no longer asking for spare change. He now carried himself with quiet confidence, the owner of a growing flower business, traveling not to survive, but to expand. Mr. Richard's eyes softened as realization dawned. "You were never truly a beggar, John," he said. "You just hadn't seen your own worth yet." They shook hands again, not as rich man and poor man, but as equals. Because the truth is, life doesn't truly change when your circumstances do. It changes when you do. When you start seeing yourself as capable, worthy, and full of value, the world begins to reflect that belief back at you. Just like John, you don't need to wait for someone to rescue you. Sometimes, the smallest shift in how you see yourself can become the turning point of your life. So what part of you have you been ignoring? And what might happen if you dared to believe in it? You don't have to be perfect. You don't need more qualifications, more resources, or someone else's permission. What you need is already inside you. A gift, a strength, a small, beautiful offering, like a flower, that when given with sincerity can change your life and touch others in ways you can't imagine. So I ask you now, not as a stranger, but as someone who believes in what you carry, what is your flower?